Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.
We have a rather full agenda today. It's going to be, I think, fairly lengthy, but before we begin that, we always begin with City Council open discussion. Councilor Kiley.
Just very quickly, I know a number of us have had discussions in the past week regarding commercial building permits and the amount of time that it's taking right now to secure them. So I would hope that in the very near future we could get somebody from the city department responsible to report back to us on that particular issue.
Okay. Thanks for opening the door. You're one of the few counselors that I have not had the chance to give a phone call to, but I am working on a revision to our city ordinances regarding building permits, specifically those for private residences, and the requirement for a building permit to simply, in my mind, maintenance to a home requiring shingles. Typical year we have 2,100. This year we'll probably exceed 6,000. The workflow jam, the paperwork jam, kind of inhibiting the way we do business down there, but also my thought is the requirement for a building permit to reshingle your home should not be necessary, and that may alleviate some of that problem. So I have emailed each one of you talking points as to why I am going to be proposing this change to our ordinance. I have also contacted the Home Builders Association, talked to several contractors, and so on and so forth. I plan on bringing a first reading of this to next week Tuesday City Council meeting, second reading to be on November 4th, I believe. I'm putting a lot of time in between there simply because I'm looking for input and feedback from both contractors and people of the community to see what their feelings are on the subject. So you'll be seeing the revision here pretty soon, but I just provided you with a list of my talking points by email here recently. Councilor Kiley.
The contractor that we spoke with last week had stated that it wasn't necessarily residential permits that were affected in the delay, that it was primarily the commercial permits. So I guess I would be interested in hearing from the city regarding that. Okay.
We will have somebody from Building Services then probably address that issue. Next week's informational committee meeting, if you don't mind, or not committee, but informational meeting. Why the log jam? I heard the same thing about a 12-week delay on getting a building permit for a commercial building. I don't know of residential and how the two work together, but we'll see if we can make it work better, I guess. So
look to your left.
That's where Eric said.
Councilor Rick and I have had the same conversation with the contractor in regards to the 12-week review. I did follow up with planning. That is not going to take 12 weeks. During that conversation, I was also told that the commercial and residential don't necessarily go hand in hand, and just because we've had a high increase in the roofing permits doesn't necessarily mean that's going to hold up any other building permits at that time. The other thing that was brought up, that person that talked to us is moving along. They are trying to come up with solutions to make sure that we are not delaying 12 weeks because it's just not acceptable. I have been reached out by a handful of contractors that are very concerned with getting rid of the building permit for roofing. I haven't been able to call each of one of them back, but there were some concerns in the protections that take place of fly-by-night construction companies that might just be flying in from out of state when we have huge hailstorms or windstorms without having them to get the proper permitting. It's kind of one more checks and balance for some of that. I did bring up, what about not having a building permit for my house? If I want to do it myself, why do I need a building permit? And there was some pushback from that as well with the conversations I've had. So I would encourage maybe having planning come in front of us and explaining the process, explaining why it is good, and we can make that decision if that's something that we want to get rid of as well. But like I said, I've been reached out by many contractors that are not overly crazy about getting rid of that, and I was told they don't go hand in hand. So I like the delay a little bit so we can get more information.
And more, yes, more information will be forthcoming. It's not something that's going to be pushed through. It'll be a good month before we have any decisions that are made on it. So I plan on a good discussion. Like I said, even tomorrow I'll be traveling. But doing a teleconference with the Home Builders Association, and Ron Bell will be present at that meeting too, because they have questions. So yes, so there will be a lot of discussion on this issue. So on that issue, any other questions or concerns? Councilor Staggers.
Yes, talking about information, there have been a number of people asking me about when are we going to find out some more information about the event center, more specifically about the experimental siding they were going to put on. It was going to be done this week of September 8th, and of course it has not been done. But can we just get more information, have somebody come before the City Council and answer that question, and also maybe some other questions we might have of the event center?
Okay, we can request probably somebody from legal or the mayor's staff on that to tell us where they are in the process. We'll have that at next week's informational meeting. Is that okay?
And then also, too, I got a phone call from a constituent who saw the article in the Argus Leader about the city owning a $1,200 drone, and they've expressed concern already about the issue of privacy and the rules, how the drone will be operated. Now, of course, there are going to be federal regulations, but also with our city drone, we ought to be able to also have some kind of rules dealing with how it's going to be used, too. So people are concerned about their privacy. What's that?
I heard they were just going to use it in your neighborhood, so no problem here.
Well, I think we ought to have an ordinance right away about this drone. But it's something I think we should start thinking about. I mean,
yeah, and I'm sure that's why the FAA has delayed any decision on what they are going to be doing with allowing drones to be used commercially or
But
by
also,
government.
we should also think about, to what extent are we going to have drones involved in code enforcement and things like that? I don't know the answer to that, but I think we should start thinking about it.
I'm sure it'll be brought back up, Counselor. I'm sure it will be brought back.
Okay, I'll bring it up again.
Yep.
Okay.
So right now we know it's grounded, so for right now I think we're okay. So.
Well, let's keep it grounded then, till we come up with something really, be the best thing.
Other public input, or open discussion, I'm sorry. I had one other thing, and that's the Councilor Eric Erpenbach and I had to separate you two, so too close. Councilor Erpenbach and I attended the Cathedral Heights Neighborhood Association meeting on September 25th. There had to be 40, 50 people in attendance. Just a kind of a shout out to that neighborhood. They do a great job of watching and knowing what's happening in their neighborhood. They are a neighborhood. They know each other. Everybody knows everybody, and it's just great to see, and I'd encourage anybody that's considering a neighborhood association, contact the city, the police department. There are advocates for getting that done properly, and just a great way to keep our city, the great city that we know it to be. So,
come on, Soda Pop, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on.